Hello. Welcome, and thank you for welcoming me today. My name is Joel Martin, as it says. I'm the Chief Digital Research Officer for the National Research Council. National Research Council, of course, is the federal government, but we're a different part of the government than you might see elsewhere. We do research. And my role as Chief Digital Research Officer is to push digital transformation across all of those areas of research. We're different in doing our research in the federal government because we want to, and we do, collaborate with academia and with small and medium enterprises, and in some cases with large companies. I'm very pleased that since 2003, we've been collaborating with UNB, PST conference, and with Dr. Gorbani, and we're going to continue. So that's a little bit of background about NRC. Now, the title, I'm going to give you a few different versions of the title. The version of the title that's up there is just talking about, there's another way to read that is that cybersecurity is everywhere. We've heard that a few times. So from President Mazurow was saying that there's increased complexity in the world. And we heard from MasterCard and Rogers that there's so much exciting that we can do in the world that we do have to pay attention to the security. And I don't think it's sequential. We don't do the really cool thing and get it working, and then later on we come back and do the cybersecurity. That'll be a little too late. So somehow we've got to interweave those things. So that's one title. Another version of the title is, here's what NRC is doing in collaboration with everybody else. So this is what you already know. And it's really talking about the cybersecurity is everywhere. It's exciting to do the digital transformation. We know that it's going to be better if we centralize the data, if we have faster connections between the data, if we have remote command and control, if we can do more and more AI and machine learning on the data that we're collecting, we have better and better sensors everywhere. That's going to be so cool. But then you have to ask all of those questions about, well, what data do you exactly have about me? Where are you storing that data? How is that data being transmitted, and is that secure? Have you looked at every line of the software that processes that data and you know exactly everything that happens to that? No, of course we can't do that. It's becoming more and more complex. We have to be more and more sophisticated. And I don't even have all of the questions up there. Of course, there's command and control issues, etc. We have one project that we've been doing for a while with the city of Quebec. They want a next generation 911 system. 911 has been around for a long time. It's easy. We just have telephones and we record what the calls are. Oh, wouldn't it be cool if we could store all of that? And if there are 3 calls in from the same location, all about fires, okay, those are all the same fire. So we geolocate, we send it off to the GPS of the ambulance or the police car. All of that's great. And maybe we can connect calls from the same place, same person or same phone number over time. Oh, wow, that's wonderful. But that's all private. It exposes the individual. Just your recording of your voice exposes who you are. If you're transcribing it, if you're storing it, if you're connecting it, and it's all centralized, it's a lot easier for somebody to break in. So all of that has to be thought about up front. So NRC cares about this in a lot of different places. It's not, we do have some projects that are, let's do cybersecurity. But in many cases, what we're starting with is let's do this other thing that's exciting. But remember, you got to do the cybersecurity at the same time. And this is important for us. We've got offices all across the country, well, all across the south of the country. I myself have team members who are in Victoria and in Moncton, and we also have people in Newfoundland. I'll just mention quickly about IRAP. Many of the companies here will know about the Industrial Research Assistance Program. That's the other part of NRC. So NRC does research and gives out this non-dilutive funding. Very important. If you haven't talked to your ITA, good thing to do. IRAP talks to about 9,000 Canadian SMEs per year. That's almost all of them, but maybe you've been missed out. Make sure you make a connection. 3,000 of those companies get non-dilutive funding per year, approximately. And now, if your company is getting non-dilutive funding, you must take cybersecurity training. And so this is one way of getting into this community. The research that we're doing is often organized around programs. So NRC says, what's a challenge that Canada has? We're going to focus on that challenge. And we're going to put some NRC resources in and some funding that helps collaborate with academia or with small and medium enterprises. These are 5 of the challenges that the government that I said had put up a while ago. They were called superclusters. Now they're global innovation clusters. I think I might have that wrong. And NRC is working with all of them. We have projects in each of those spaces trying to do the higher risk projects that could then feed into what the global innovation cluster is working on. So we have people working on the digital superclusters, et cetera. That's just to give you a sense of where we're organizing. Those are the problems, and cybersecurity underlies all of them. We also have identified other challenges that are specific to NRC that aren't necessarily identified elsewhere. The pandemic response, okay, that was identified everywhere, but NRC had a challenge program in that. Putting resources in, putting in funding for collaboration. And there are several of these that were chosen for different reasons to address different challenges that Canada has. One I'll mention in a minute is the aging in place. So that one's a simple idea. The goal is, can we increase the average age at which people have to go to long-term care? So that means we're somehow keeping people in their homes for longer. What technologies, what social systems, et cetera, are necessary in order to pull that off? And then you can already guess what some of the cybersecurity issues are. And you all know this, or you've heard this millions of times. There's a lot of growth in the power that's available, the number of devices. This whole digital transformation has a scary side, and an exciting side too. But we're talking a little bit about how we can mitigate some of the challenges. The way that NRC has been working, this is very high level. Almost all of our projects are interdisciplinary. We try to get people from different walks of life, different backgrounds to contribute to the projects. We've heard that earlier today. Collaboration is important. We've heard that because we want people who understand the underlying problem, who understand some of the underlying technologies, who understand some of the risks. And then a few other aspects that are in many of the projects: human in the loop, machine learning, and those two things go together often, and the importance of standards, which we also heard earlier today. So I'm going to go through a bunch of examples at NRC that maybe are new to you, but they're going to be similar to what you've already been thinking about. So we have a really cool astronomy, or we're actually mandated, NRC is mandated to take control of the observatories inside Canada and in collaboration with other countries. One of the cool things that was created in 1986 was the Canadian Astronomical Data Center. It's in Victoria. This is one of the 3 largest in the world, single storage locations for astronomical data. It's really neat. The whole bunch of telescopes are hooked to it. 10 minutes after information comes off of the telescope, it ends up in this data center. And you can be a virtual astronomer. You don't have as much control because you can't aim the telescope wherever you want. It's whatever was recorded by somebody else for some other reason, but it's there. So if you've got some cool hypotheses, you might be able to test it with what's there. And as you can see, this service has a throughput of a petabyte per year to 6,000 astronomers, give or take. Okay, it's all open, no problem. It's just science data. We don't need to worry about cybersecurity. But the whole reason that this has succeeded is because there has been attention to the integrity of the data. If you can't trust what that data is, even though it's all open, then you've got a problem. You also have a problem that this is not just data anymore. It's data plus software, the software necessary to do pre-processing, et cetera, and that could easily be corrupted. Another set of examples are on the cryptography and communications. A lot of these are in collaboration with the University of Waterloo and Canadian Space Agency. And there are a wide variety. One is the post-quantum cryptography. We were part of one of the proposals that went forward to NIST for post-quantum cryptography. Unfortunately, the news was bad a couple of weeks ago for that. I'll skip past that quickly. Another aspect of that, though, is that the post-quantum cryptography is going to be important for many different applications, including vehicle-to-vehicle communications. The dream there is great, just like all of those previous dreams I mentioned. You've got cars talking to each other and cars talking to stoplights and cars talking to everything, because then you never have a traffic jam again. But of course, there's a lot of things that can go wrong, and so you need to make sure that that's secured. And then we're also working with quantum communication. We're managing the development of one of the base stations for Keysat for one type of quantum communication, and then also working on quantum key distribution. Another area where this is really important is transportation networks. And so this would be supply chain and logistics. And there are lots of opportunities there. One example is the last mile. So if you order from Uber Eats, they have a system, and digitization has made it all a whole bunch better than it had been before. So delivery works a little bit better than it was before. But they have a proprietary system. Is there some way that you could break that down into the pieces so that now you've got a distributed system that could be shared, and it's not just one company controlling that whole system or duplicating it? And then what do you have to do in order to secure such a system? Because now it's being shared, it's more distributed. I'll mention the last point there. I use the word overlay. Some of you probably have a better name for this, but the idea is that the commodity hardware or commodity systems often come out just on the excitement of the digital transformation, and they haven't thought at all about the cybersecurity. And so then you're stuck with all of these devices that you buy that are insecure, and you're trying to hook them up, you're trying to use them, and they could get compromised. So what do? Well, you could put an overlay. So you've got some sort of a system that interrupts the natural communication to that device and takes it over. So this would be a plug-in or a go-between, something like that. So just so that's what I'm using the word overlay for. And so of course that works for UAVs. Another application area is in aging in place. So at NRC, the projects are all about how do you support the people staying home and aging in their own homes. One aspect of it that we're paying attention to with this interdisciplinary team is what's actually usable, because you could put all sorts of privacy and security into the home, but the individual might not be able to control it. They might not have any idea what you've got there and what could go wrong and what they need to set, what settings they prefer. They might not understand it, and even the kids of that aged parent might not understand it. And we don't want to have the default being the Facebook settings. We want the default to be something much more secure. Okay, and then another overlay example. So you can go buy a bunch of devices from wherever, Siemens or whoever has devices for your aged parent's home, and you'd like to have some way of interrupting the problems that could be coming from these commodity devices. Another setting that's very similar to the aging in place, of course, is healthcare. IoT is one situation where this is very common. So you can imagine a medical device that you've embedded in your body that needs to communicate outside your body, there's a lot that could go wrong there, especially if there are command and control that could go back inside. I'm not going to get such a thing, but there needs to be some control of that. And one example would be at least let's encrypt the communication in and out. And maybe we can do it a homomorphic encryption so that only a couple people need to have the key. Another example of this is with commodity devices, medical devices that go into a hospital, such as the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario. They buy a bunch of these devices, put them in the floor to be hooked up to the kids. They all come with Wi-Fi of some sort so that they could be used for remote access. That's terrible. You could walk down the hallway and find out what all of these Wi-Fi devices are. Let's put an overlaid operating system on that interrupts that communication and gives back control. And we do have some, even though we have most of our projects are focused on a particular application, we do have some projects that are generally focused on the same problems that a lot of the academic papers might talk about tomorrow. So there are machine learning problems. One is that a very common thing to do with data is to look for anomalies in cybersecurity, but in a lot of other settings as well. But you don't want necessarily all of that data to be available to everyone. So you might want to do something like federated learning or some way of bringing all of the data together without revealing the importance of that data to everybody else or the details of that data to anybody else, but you still can make decisions for healthcare or for many other different, well, so the aging in place is another example where you'd like to do that. So you don't want to reveal the information about every one of the aged people in Fredericton, but you might like to bring all their data together because you want to optimize the transportation network, for example. Okay, so that was a very quick tour of several projects that NRC is working on. It's not all of them. They all have a cybersecurity tail behind them. The goal is often something else, not always. You can go back. In telling you about the projects, I just hinted at what they were. If you want more description, you want to know who it is and who we're working with, we do have a database of most of these projects. You can go in and search. I'm sorry, it's a long password. You can, if the alternative is to go to Google and type NRC challenge programs, and then on the right-hand side is a link to projects, and it gets you the same place. That's maybe a little easier than this complicated password. But you can type in something like cyber or secure with the E off of it, and you'll get a large selection of the projects. But we also have a team here in Fredericton on the UNB campus, co-located with CIC, that can give you some more details about many of these projects. And so I'll stop there, and I welcome any questions or contacts after.